Hello, ladies. Well, I gave us a couple minutes. And so I'm going to change paths here a tiny bit of what we were going to go over. With no audience participation, this won't be as fun. So let me pull up my notes here for a second. Give me a moment. I want to go over, I'm going to start with, I just deleted something. Here we go again. My iPad never wants to cooperate. All right. Let me just take 1 second. All right, I'm going to go through a couple key points here, and I'm going to connect all the dots, things that we've been working on, where your body is right now, what this whole, like what our habits course is doing, what it's related to, and kind of a check-in of where we are right now and what we've learned or what we're applying, and how it's supposed to be. And I'm going to get into a few easy things. So this is not going to be a very long recording, sadly enough. I'm going to start with this whole idea. So the habits that we choose to do, that we're starting to adopt and break away from, maybe our old habits, could be generalized under the practice of circadian rhythm, which, as we know, let's see if I can get my, as we know, circadian rhythm is pretty much the basis of life rhythm and the basis of our being and how well our health, our body, our soul, all this connection is, and how we are in line with these energies that created us and these energies that support us. So I'm going to kind of really focus on the word support and how circadian rhythm really helps you feel supported. So as we know, I know you know this, the human design is pretty much perfect. So if we go back even just say a little over 100 years ago, all of these diseases, all of this chronic inflammation was not a topic of conversation. They did have certain severe illnesses. There were disease spreads. There were different things having to do with hygiene or food spoils, things like that, but not the chronic inflammation that we live with now that is called like normal or age progressing diseases or things like this. But when we see it in children and when we see it in the norm, 88% of the Western world, Western population, has some illness caused by chronic inflammation. 88% are metabolically unfit. Something is out of rhythm. And if you bring it all back to us supporting our own bodies and feeling supported, learning how to heal, learning how to self-diagnose, this all was more normalized before about 100 years ago. And as we begin to industrialize food, but I won't go off into that tangent, how the food source and our ability to have food and too often we've gotten completely out of rhythm with the way the body wants to be. The perfectness of this body is really being destroyed by our own doing. So like yogis and people that are really deep into the body, mind, soul connection, that how important it is that your body feels light enough and healthy enough to support all of these different modalities within us. And I'm going to go over a quick little kind of an outline too of the 5 koshas. So as we can kind of put this all together, but the yogis, our eating has become pretty much our demise. And I know we've gone through this many, many times, but I want to connect the dots a little more clearly. Eating seasonally, creating meals that are so simple, but are incorporating the 6 taste. which if you ask anyone right now within, modern society and all, they wouldn't even begin to understand why it's important to incorporate the six taste within our diets, and preferably every day. So if you can do this, really balancing the body, it's giving the nutrition to the body that it needs to replace and extract and expand and tighten and all these things that are supposed to be going on in our body in this rhythmic pattern and this daily cleansing cycle, this daily depositing, nourishing, breaking down. All this depends on the food source and what the information from the food, spices, things of the herbs, plant world, all this is giving us, it's giving the body information and telling it what to do, what it needs, how to react to certain things. And the more that we have processed foods and gotten out of this and eaten too regularly and having the abundance of food, we can have any food we want, as many hours of the day we want, every day of the year. And our bodies were really, really made. The yogis are really like, they're not even yogis, but even within all of Eastern world, some people really just strive to have one meal a day, like keep the body light, keep the mind light, keep the spirit light. That whole connection with the spirit world, if you're bogged down with food and digestion and everything kind of in the way, the body's not working perfectly. So you don't really have this connection to this upper world energy intelligence that really could be tapped into daily. So that OMAD, or that one meal a day, for some people is their norm. So as we try to do here in this course is really, really kind of get to that point where we're not doing that, but adding in intermittent fasting or fast mimicking diets, or really, really spacing the meals, things like that, all are going to help immensely to get our bodies back in rhythm and get us on a path of where we really can be enlightened. Like things will not be foreign, or they won't be abnormal to the body and the mind, and everything slows down. The nervous system slows down and everything can work in conjunction. So this circadian rhythm, we're supposed to have that lightness at night so that we sleep well, so that we wake up in the morning. Again, remember, to have the outcome tomorrow, you start it today. So waking pre-dawn, after you've had this beautiful, early to bed, maybe you're lucky enough on an empty stomach, and you have that lightness when you go to bed. When you wake up, the pre-dawn is easy. So you wake up to that energy, and that's Vata time. And that's when the mind is sharp, the energy is clear, things go on in the body. There's movement setting up for elimination. Like the body is really doing certain things at that pre-dawn, where you can tap into that intelligence. If you're clear and kind of light in the morning, and you have this like astral kind of a way within your cells, within your body, you can tap into that energy. I don't challenge you, but I invite you to go outside one day this week, pre-dawn, and just kind of listen to the nothingness, if you can, if you're not living in a city, but you can still take advantage of it. If you were to just go outside and feel that energy, makes you feel different. It makes you feel alive. If you can breathe it in, that Brahma Muhurta, that time, that's what they call God's time, because that lightness is available to you. That energy is available to you. So sorry, I'm getting off on that. Can you tell I really enjoy that time of day? And I really believe it has effect on every bit of our being. And for that day to come and that productivity, it just brings that to you. And then if you had gone to sleep early, you do get to wake up that early, because you don't really need the alarms or anything. Your body has rested. It has had that full recovery. It's done its detox. It knows what to do when we stay in rhythm. And then, of course, if we're reverse engineering here, to get that lightness, to get to bed early, it's having that earlier, lighter dinner. So try to kind of think of what this really is doing for you, not as a punishment. Oh, I can't eat that late at night. Find the benefits, how you are really benefiting from this. And then after this, we're going to go into physical cost, financial cost, and different aspects that we can look at it if we aren't living this way. Like, what are the actual costs monetarily, relationships? We'll get into that. And then we cycle into the next day so we can ease in our day. But the body really to be at its optimum, we used to hear the lines, feast or famine. We kind of turned that into a bad, like a derogatory statement. But if you go back in time, if you go back into text, if you go back even into the Yogi Sutras and things, that's the way the body wants to be. You want to feast, you want to really enjoy with your five senses, the six tastes. You want to feel this nourishment getting into you, enjoying really good whole food. And you want to feast, you want to eat that big meal in the afternoon. Say you're gotten to the point where you've eaten very, very little for breakfast or no breakfast. Then the body has contracted. You want this stomach to contract. You want your body it's been burning the fat. You want all of this is going on that this perfect mechanism is doing. And then you want to feast. You want to eat enough to where you feel like you feasted and you enjoyed the food and the taste and what it's doing for your body, as I just said. So, and then you want to take all that time to digest it. Your body has to digest it's got its three functions where it breaks down, it metabolizes, and then it rebuilds back up again. It puts it back together and uses it. So that metabolism, which in Western science, we really have we just have the two functions, the anabolic and the other. So it isn't that metabolism. We want to make sure that we are using, absorbing, and actually that functional process of making the next layers of tissue. We want to make sure that happens. So giving your body those really elongated hours in between to fully digest before you introduce any more food into that system is really crucial. And again, that's the lightning. So spanda, remember, spanda is that expansion and contraction. So the feasting is expanding the body. It's expanding the stomach. It's expanding the awareness of all this that's coming in. And then if we really take the time to go through and bring it back to contraction to you really feel hungry, like you feel that, you feel those hunger pains, and we're always like, oh, I'm hungry, I have to eat. Maybe test yourself, go a little bit further and see, am I more clear? Are things working better? So circadian rhythm, it's all set up on these rhythms: when to eat, when to sleep, when to wake, when to, hydrate all day long. Certain things, if you follow the animal world, you follow, us many, many, many years, prior to, this was normal, and the bodies worked better. The bodies functioned more. The brain acuity was much higher. Their enlightenment to spirit and awareness to this higher being, we don't even think of that anymore in our most days and most, circles of life that we're in. That spiritual element and that connection to our soul, which really drives the force of the rest of our being, is non-existent. We kind of push it aside as being, like, oh, that's a little wacky, wonky, voodoo-y, kind of that's out there. But we need that. We really need that connection to stay connected to the wholeness of our being and our body. So as I said, like that feast, that famine, and then being able to burn this cycle of feast and famine is to burn the fat that we stored for energy, for pure fuel. And I know we've gone into this in better detail in other teachings, but so it's actually written in the yogi text and all of the ancient writings also, that the importance of meal spacing, because they understood that. So Ayurveda is this science of observation. So they would watch and see and document as things happened through bodies and cycles. And so eating, feasting and famine, the feasting created this abundance and this ability for the body to do certain things. And then that fasting portion, that's when the body cleaned up. That's when the body used things. So they understood back then, 5,000 years ago, that meal spacing omitted that body inflammation in the mind, not just the body. So that overstimulus, they understood the adding of all these outside forces, and say, back in the day, they didn't have what we had, but they had in their civilization, their markets and their ways to do things and their gatherings so sometimes that getting away where they would have their like spiritual quest and things where this was part of their health. This was sort of part of their, their well-being. And they understood that this chronic inflammation due to too many overloads of our senses and all this was a real thing. And we've kind of gotten away from it, and our medicines have become way too specialized and departmentalized, like everything in your body is a certain thing. And circadian rhythm, Ayurveda, Eastern medicine, everything works together as a whole. So staying within circadian rhythm and introducing nature at all times and all these things, taking a break, meditating, maybe leaving your desk for a little bit during the day, checking out by yourself for like even a half-hour walk or something during the day is really crucial for keeping your sense organs calm and clear in a way, from that constant stimulation. So, and how important it is for the chemical messages in our body to be burning the fat over burning glucose and sugars all day long and fructose. I was looking at something today with all of the ads for juices, Gatorades, energy drinks, all of this. The amount of fructose that are in these drinks and in these energy drinks, it's amazing. Even if you were to take apple juice, make your own, orange juice, make your own, the concentration of that fructose in your body, what it does to you is amazingly impairing, and how it leads to chronic inflammation and how it leads to pre-diabetic predispositions and things. It's really, really substantial. So eat the fruit, eat the whole grains, eat the whole foods, and try even not to drink juices. Eat as much as you can, eat the whole fruit. So things like this are super, super important. And as we do all these and be aware of these and slowly integrate them into our cycles, into our own habits, into our own lives, and you'll start to see this change within you that becomes supported. You're being supported by the rhythms that are here to support us, but then it becomes inward. So your own body is supporting you. If we look back on the habits of how this is supporting, so things like your meal spacing, keeping the mind, the body, everything clear. If you get into our habits, as we just spoke of that, earlier to bed, lighter dinners, bigger dinner in the afternoon, this is all supporting you, your health, your mental, physical, and your emotional well-being. And then just look at what we do, self-massage. So healing, even all of the animal world goes into the healing. They touch, they move the body, they move the skin, they groom each other, especially if they're injured, they lick that area, the saliva, they urinate on it, like things like this. These are healing things we can do from within our own bodies, within our own knowledge. But we've gotten to the point where we don't believe it anymore. Like we have to go to a doctor and a specialist for every little thing that goes wrong. But when we start to live the way that we are beginning to become aware of and live, we're beginning to be more introspective, where we're going inside for answers and not always relying on those outside sources. And then things like self-massage, sitting in silence, getting away, clearing things, the supportive diets and the rituals that we have, breath body practice, things connecting ourself to our inward self, and then sharing that and those rhythms with nature is what's going to keep us balanced and healthy. And you'll start to see things come out that you might not even know that you were aware that you currently were predisposed to some kind of a chronic inflammation. And as it's unpeeling itself, you're starting to see some weird symptoms or things leave the body, and that's a good thing. So these things will become your natural instinct of how to care and how to take, how to take these signs and use them for your benefit without always having to outsource your own intelligence. So the nervous system is super, super charged and then let down and then overstimulated. And this all comes also from our soul connection. If we don't have that soul connection to our inner world with an outer, whatever your higher being is, whatever your belief is, then it's too much on the mind and the body, which is directly connected, as we know, to the nervous system. And then what does the nervous system do to the body? It breaks it down. It revs it up or it breaks it down. We're seeing, overabundance of cortisol still being produced well into 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. Cortisol is your wake up. That's like, get up out of bed, let's go. Everybody usually does that, hit of coffee, which if you get back into rhythm and really get going, you really don't need that, or you don't need it as a wake up. You just can use it as a pleasure, enjoyment. But not only that, when you wake up and you're doing this overstimulus, then we get these dopamine hits as well. And those are you want them in the morning, or productivity. And like when you get up and you connect your breath body and you get the red blood cells with the nitric oxide and all this going in your body, that's when the dopamine is supposed to come on, and it's going to tell you, we can do this today. We can handle this. We're going to conquer what we have on our plate today. And all that's the time you want a dopamine hit. Like, let's go at this. You don't want one, you don't want to drink a Red Bull to stay up and do something, or stimulus from too many, screens, and you're on reading things that are aggravating you or something at 10 o'clock at night or 11 o'clock at night. And so all of our hormones get off balance. So now we've had no melatonin rise, no serotonin rise, like nothing to tell our clock to come back. And so we're living against the rhythms of nature if we're in those responses, which is that is setting us up for this chronic inflammation, which is just, as I said, it's abundant, and it's apparent in all of our, as you see, most of children, pretty much everybody, though, as I said, 88% of the human population are metabolically inflamed or chronically inflamed or out of balance. And it's really sad. So if we're not going against the rhythms, then we're living in the rhythms, and that's where we want to be. So these 10 habits, or Ayurveda's dinacharya, living within these daily rhythms, as they call it, and then pushing that back out into the Ritucharya, which is the seasonal rhythms, eating seasonally. Like we know in this course, like you start to change your dietary ingredients and the way you prepare things and your food choices and your spices and all this. This really aids the body. So things like this are, they're crucial to our well-being. And if we stay within this self-support, knowing that we have this self-support, this is where the magic starts happening. This is where productivity goes up. This is where the cost of all the things we used to do is now coming into a monetary, I mean, it's obvious. So you begin to, as you're not buying so many, maybe supplements or going to the doctor or having all these other, body practices because you're out of alignment or you're injured or, things that might go on, you actually have more of disposable income. You have things, now you've got money that maybe you can invest in a better angle, maybe a better long-term investment, something like you want to be looking in towards the future. Like, what can I do with my mind, my body, my soul, and my monetary investments? Maybe you want to do, something towards your retirement or extra property, things like that. As you start getting into the habits and living a particular way, and you start losing all of your probably not supporting habits, you actually gain back some income. And we're going to go into this next week a tiny bit, where I'm going to show you actual figures of where and how you save money just by changing a few of your habits. So I'm going to get into, let me see if I have a picture for us. All right, let me see if I can can make this bigger. Okay, I'm just playing with this until, see if I can do this. Okay, so let's talk about, we never really got deep into the koshas. I know we said that we're going to go through these and maybe we have, but the connection that we've lost within that full body, the way that the yogis were taught, the way that most of Eastern philosophies are based on some type of a structure within the body, structures within layers. So I'm going to see if I can screen share onto, oh, I forgot to mirror image. Let me see. My YouTube just decides to like play something nice for me, but I didn't want that. Well, that was really nice, wasn't it? Okay, so let me pull this up. Let me see if I can do this. I'm going to mirror my image. And I'm going to go to, this might work on a first try. I'm going to screen share, talking to myself. Come on. Trying, and try one more time. I want you to see the koshas. So give this one more attempt here. There was a, it was a good attempt. I think I just did it backwards. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. I'm hoping you can see this now. I won't know that you can't see it because none of you are here. So, all right. These are the koshas. So what, hopefully you can see these now. I just made them go away, didn't I? Can't see that anymore, can you? All right, can you see any of this? This is frustrating because there's no one here to say, yes, I can see that. All right. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to tell you about the koshas anyway. Oh, I know what it's doing. It's sharing to my eye, but I mean to my, but not to my Zoom. Okay. I don't know why that happened, but it's okay. So let's go. I'm going to go into the koshas anyway. All right. So the koshas, we have these 5 bodies, and I'm very sad that I can't show you. So the Annamaya kosha, that's that physical body. That is what. So just picture. Let's draw a little thing. Someone sitting in a lotus. So you've got your physical outline of the body. The physical body is the Annamaya kosha, and that's like your bones, your muscles, your organs, your skin, Um, that's all of the outside structure of your body. And that's the Annamaya Kosha. Then the energy body kosha is the next sheath or layer within, and that's the energetic body. That's the energy flow or the prana, and it's the pranamaya kosha. And it's in Chinese medicine, it's your chi, it's your, in Ayurveda, it's your prana. That's that energy force. And it's like, it's that force, that being, that energy of every atom, organ, the cells in the body, all the body systems that work together, how prana coordinates like the psychological activity, the physical that you know that goes on in your body, the pumping of your heart, elimination of waste, all of the prana, all of everything that needs that vital force. And then it all has to do as well as with like imbalances or blocks within this energy will physically affect the functions of the body inside. So that pranic, that's why it's so important for us to do our breath body practice, keep the body going, keep red blood cells nice and oxygenated with, you know, nitric oxide and things. Really, really important to keep these so that your state of mind can be at ease, but can be powerful and functioning, which also directly correlated to the nervous system, as we always talk about. So when we like shallow breath, or we, you know, are nervous, whatever, that's really interrupted prana. When we take full breaths and we really oxygenate and we get things moving, the body needs this. So that prana, that pranamaya kosha, super important. And then we have the mental body. So within the Annamaya Kosha, then we've got the Pranamaya Kosha, then we've got this mental, and it's the Manomaya Kosha. That's that third layer, and it corresponds with your minds and emotions and your nervous system. So it expresses your thoughts, your feelings, everything, sensations that are going on in your body. So that mana means mind or thought process. So the mana maya kosha is the layer of the mind. And many of us have an overactive, like the mind is always going. And this wears on the nervous system as well. And it plays out in our emotions. So the more the mind is going, and we don't give it a downtime, it then, you know, affects the nervous system, which then, as the nervous system gets all agitated, our emotions come out. And you'll see this every day within us or our coworkers or our family. It's directly related to this too much stimulation of the mind. So the mental body is also where we have our five senses. So we need to be able to give ourselves the awareness of our five senses through a controlled mind. So the sense of sight and smell and taste and touch and the hearing, this all is generated from the mind, and it all needs to work in conjunction. It's everything around us. And then we have the wisdom body. So the wisdom body is, it begins working with the first three bodies, like in a yoga practice when you're doing, and then the coordination when you move your breath into physical movement. Say you're doing yoga practice on the mat and you're synchronizing, like, you know, your physical positions, your energetic, your breath body, and then your mental body is focusing. Then that next layer, that wisdom, that inside, that's more of an internal awareness. Like when, say, a yoga teacher or a coach or a parent will tell you to concentrate on that inward, like what's the inward signs? What's that coming from? So when we connect the outside three bodies through this physical and these, like pretty much all of the other knowing that we're aware of, and we connect it with that deep inside knowing, that higher intelligence, that's the wisdom body. And that's called the Vijnana Maya Kosha. And Vijnana means intellect. So that's our wisdom. And it's not wisdom as you think, like the intelligence of the body, of the mind. It's more of that intuitive, like it's your consciousness inside. It's that those relative reflective aspects of what we call that consciousness, like being aware of something. You just know, and your body knows it has this wisdom to act, react, coordinate, be at ease, be alert. And it's not the mind connection, it's this intuitive body. And it's really important to understand that you have an intuitive body and to learn how to use it. That's where we get that insourcing to take care of ourselves as well. So that next body, once we've achieved the awareness, our pranic body is working, our mental body, we've learned how to use that mental body, and then have the time where we turn it off. Like, you have to turn your brain off sometimes. As we get all of this going, all of this coordinated, and we're like fine tuning and refining our bodies constantly with our practices, then with the all knowing, the deep, deep inside of us, that deep path that we're hoping to get to, that's the bliss body. And that's the deepest layer of our core, of our existence. And when you hit the Anandamaya Kosha level, Ananda means, I think I forgot an N in there, means bliss. It's referred to as like that highest self, that spirit, that bliss body, but it's not a higher self as, as a higher being that we relate to. Like, it's in us. It's within us. It's our freedom. It's our expansiveness. It's our joyous, our that realization that we are in true nature with ourselves. Like, that's bliss. Bliss is really that enlightened, loving knowing. And it doesn't come from buying a new car or, reaching a goal at work or something. It comes from all of these layers lining up, and you finally connecting all of the pieces. So when you connect with this kosha, it's like this inner expansiveness that no one else can give you. It comes from you and your strength and your practices and your awareness. And it's that feeling like if you were to hold a brand newborn baby, and that feeling of brand new life and that pure perfectness, and like you look at a baby's eyes, that consciousness that looks up at you, that's bliss, like that radiance. It's just knowing and loving yourself. So in this course, we're going to keep building and we're going to keep going on this. So our intelligence and our intellect and our design thinking and our habit changing, none of that is possible, and none of that is pure and like conquered until we really love ourselves enough and believe in ourselves enough to reach that bliss body, that like you wake up or you finished some kind of a practice or something, and you have this deep core feeling within you that you are enough, you're perfect. You have this willingness to understand that there are 5 bodies that make you just wonderful and perfect. And when you believe that and you believe in yourself, all of this just starts to become almost amazingly simplistic. And it's never super easy, and it's not always easy to keep it going at all times. That's why it's practice. That's why we do these routines. That's why we keep these practices and these cycles and living within nature, these rhythms. That's why we do it all the time, because it's a practice and it's something that has to be achieved, but it can be lost. We can easily lose sight of this feeling, or somewhere within. Usually there's one of our koshas that are very out of line. Nowadays, it's usually the mind. There's too much screen time, too much coming in from out, which then affects the nervous system, which then affects the Vijnanamaya kosha, the Pranamaya kosha, then it gets into the mind, the Manomaya kosha. All of these get affected and get out of balance. But if we're aware that they're there and that these are layers to really like refine and work on constantly and perfect, then we have the ability to bring ourselves back to that easily. Like we could meditate, we could take a 5-minute time out, a break, we could leave whatever we're doing and do 5 minutes of breath work or jumping jacks or something. We have the tools and we know how to do this. So integrating circadian rhythm, feeding the body properly, going to bed, waking up at the certain times, getting our hormones all back in line, finding a way to have the body, using the fat and just these simple practices that don't have to be that hard, and being aware of the 5 koshas. That's when I believe we really truly start to live and can achieve any goal we put in our path. Nothing seems to be out of reach. And again, financially, like when you really add up how much money you've saved and how much time and what it's cost you in supplements or doctor bills or whatever, just living within rhythm, like circadian rhythm, and getting back into balance, you will absolutely be amazed. So I'm sorry that none of you were here to hear this and kind of interact with me, because I think we would have had lots of interaction on this. But I hope you all watch the recording and maybe take some notes or take away even one little piece, or really enjoy exploring. I'm going to put these links in the bottom so you can find, the koshas and the words, the Yanamaya, Pranayanamaya, the Manamaya, Vinyanamaya, and the Amandamaya kosha, and kind of relate to it. Start maybe put a little picture up somewhere where you can see it and start understanding that your personality, your person, your uniqueness, you are absolutely perfect and beautiful the way you are. That these 5 layers are your true being. And this is your superpower. So put your cape on, ladies, and conquer the world. So hopefully you will get to watch this recording, and I will see you again next week, and have a great night, everyone.